It's a midweek version of Business Live. Many thanks for joining me. Good evening and welcome. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Biafe. Coming up in this evening's edition, Ghana Statistical Service says GDP for Q2 this year slows down to 2.5%. Workers of Telecom company Expresso demonstrate against management of the company over non-payment of salaries and failure to honor other financial obligations due them. Local market for fruit juices becoming more vibrant as consumers are increasingly becoming aware, making purchases for their health benefits and fresh taste. The full story on the Joy Business Van. These are the headlines. You can stay interactive with us by tweeting at Joy Business GH is your handle, and on Facebook, Joy Business is our page for more business news updates. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back.
Business Live today is brought to you by GCB Bank.
Government will end the year missing out on its growth targets. That's according to the projections coming from the Institute of Social and Economic Research, ISA. Government is in the supplementary budget revised how it is expecting the economy to grow by some 4.1%. For some, if ISA's projection is anything to go by, then it means there will not be enough economic activities taking place in the economy. Director of ISA, Professor Felix Asante, explains to Joy Business why he is not so optimistic about the growth targets.
2015, we were about 73%. We know that government is making an effort. Fine, the efforts, we're in the 60s, but it is still high, especially when we were about 36% in 2009. Debt to GDP ratio, we were 36%, and we are currently, as of 2015, we are at 73%. I know the government is working on it, but like I keep on saying, once you go to that extent, reversing it, it's so, you need to put in a lot of measures to reverse it. It's not just one day or just 1 year and you reverse it. We know that contractors are still haven't still received their money, and there are some other things going on there. So if all those resources are released, it will even let us move further.
But do you think that from what government is saying and government is arguing that we're doing enough, we are making that gradual progress in terms of our deficit and all those things, but why does ISA still see that as the biggest threat to the economy, or talking about the state of the economy? For you, why do you still see it as a threat?
No, we are still seeing it as a threat because when you look at our recurrent and our capital expenditure, you notice that for the recurrent expenditure, which is so huge, about almost 80% of our going into the recurrent expenditure, personnel emolument is so huge in the recurrent expenditure.
Now, two rating agencies, Moodys and Fitch, have reviewed Ghana's outlook from negative to stable, maintaining the rating at B3. The key drivers for the review, according to the rating agencies, is the country's significant fiscal deficit reduction and institutional reform implementation over the past year under the 3-year IMF program, which started in April 2015. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Telecom says the favorable assessment of the credit worthiness shows it is on track to stabilizing the economy. Mr. Telecom says this will empower government to fast-track programs aimed at stabilizing the economy.
It is following the general story. The ratings themselves are following the general story, if you may, from the consolidation to the turnaround, and then, to a growth phase, for the economy. I would hope that in general, all of us as Ghanaians, would see that some of the sacrifice and some of the dedication on behalf of others who have worked on this program, the understanding that comes with it, and some recommendations which sometimes come by way of even criticisms, have helped to show that if we continue on this path, Ghana can put one thing behind it. The idea that in every election year, we are overshooting the budget above 3%, 3 percentage points, of GDP. The last, even though it wasn't all election year phenomenon, 2012 was not all election year phenomenon because of certain external, factors. Still, it was attributed to the fact that since 1992, in every election year, Ghana blew it. If you recall, it led to DPs withholding funds from us until we could get a credible program. So for 2013, there was virtually, very little, flows of development partner, funds, to the budget. What it also means is that we can enter 2017 on a more hopeful note, unlike, previous, election year eras or periods. We are hopeful, as I said, because of some exogenous factors also that would come to play. It's not all going to be austerity that's going to do the turnaround. I think we must understand that. The investments, some of the investments that we have made in, say, partial risk guarantees, for which we just signed the indemnity, will result in independent power producers coming on stream to offtake, the gas. In fact, as we speak, we are oversubscribed as far as independent power producers are concerned. So what we all expect by way of prospects for the economy, hopefully these are, the ratings will be telling, a better story.
The IMF board has been meeting to review government's performance under the fund program so far. This was after government failed to meet some key targets for the meeting to have happened in the middle of this month. But as George Wiafe reports, enough progress has been made for Ghana to pass the third review by the board.
Sources say some of the key issues that government has made progress include the amended Bank of Ghana Act, restructuring state-owned organizations' debt, dealing with some banks that are having serious financial crisis, and issues about the country's fiscal data for last year. On the Bank of Ghana Act, there has been some agreement to send the document back to Parliament to address the concerns raised by the IMF. On issues about the country's fiscal data for last year, an IMF team is already in town to carry out their own assessment on the numbers. But for Deputy Minister of Finance Monacote, government will pass the review because of what it has done so far.
All the performance criteria has been met. The performance criteria that was set by the IMF for us have been met, so that is good. There were some prior conditions that we had to meet in order to finish the third review so that they can go to the board. We are in the process and we are almost done with that. And so we are confident that IMF should be going to their board to allow the next tranche to come in.
Now, passing the third review will result in the release of some $116 million by the IMF to support the country's import and export needs. It will also trigger the release of some $400 million by the country's donor partners.
Now, workers of Telecom company Expresso have picketed against management of the company over non-payment of salaries and failure to honor other financial obligations for the past 18 months. According to them, they have been denied their due under the collective bargaining agreement for far too long. Among their concerns include non-payment of salaries, non-payment of SNET contributions, and the non-payment of Provident Fund returns. There's more in this report.
We we are at the headquarters of Expresso Ghana Limited, where the workers of the company are pouring out their anger on the management for working for more than 18 months without salary. Their sleep contributions have also not been paid, and they are calling on government and management of the company to step in.
Workers of Expresso said they have been working for almost 2 years without payment of their salaries. Negotiations by the local and mother unions have proven futile. Today's demonstration was aimed at getting government to intervene to get management to pay their outstanding salaries. Addressing the media at the company's premises, local secretary of the Communication Workers Union, Edward Anani, said this development is affecting their livelihoods and that of their families.
We have been denied of condition of service in our collective bargaining agreement for far so long. You all agree with me that denying an employee of the above is like killing him or her. The above benefits, which have not been paid, have affected homes, payment of fees of wards, utility bills, rent, etc., etc.
In an interview with Joy Business, a staff of the company, Georgina Ayisi, vented out her frustration on the situation.
For now, we've been working for so many months, they've not paid us. And we don't even know the owners to go and find out from them why they've not paid us. And we go to management and they keep telling us, oh, we are doing something about it, we are doing something about it. And so once in a while they'll give you 1 month, once in a while they give you half a month. And then that is how we'll be living till now. And now we see that we are tired, we are fed up. We can't continue anymore. That is why we are doing this.
Later, the local union secretary, Edward Anani, spoke to Joy Business.
Staff have always been borrowing from friends and loved ones. And this is what they live on. As a matter of fact, they borrow from friends and loved ones. These unpaid salaries have led to so many broken homes, if I should put it that way. Wives have divorced husbands, rent matters, people are being ejected from their homes, and so many of these. Even as we speak, schools have reopened, and we intentionally decided to embark on this mission because children are going from one class to the other and need to buy books. You see, you need to buy books, you have to pay fees. Utilities are pending, water and electricity, they are all pending, and you need money to pay all these.
Moving on, government says port revenue has started picking up a year after implementation of the National Single Window System. Deputy Finance Minister Munakwati revealed this at the inauguration of the Ghana Revenue Authority's Electronic Payment Zone, or also known as the E-Zone, in Accra.
The single window system was introduced in September last year to serve as a common platform for stakeholders to process documents and facilitate trade by reducing cost and time spent in import and export trade. The electronic payment zone forms part of the Ghana Single Window project. The payment zone is expected to facilitate payment of port charges and other services by exporters to the authority, as Deputy Minister of Finance Munakwati explains.
The important thing about the E-Zone is that it gives integrated information so that at any point in time, any businessman who is doing business here knows where their goods are, knows what they must do, whether it's a certain document that they need to hand in or to process, but they know. For me, the important thing is that there's clarity on the process and on the system for doing international business. In terms of revenue, we started last year after a very major desk study and case study and how do we call them, country visits to Nigeria. We had also, of course, heard what had happened in Cote d'Ivoire, but Nigeria is the largest market, and that's where, if you really want to study for West Africa, you go to, and we went there, and West Blue had done the same for them in terms of starting their single window, and they told us what to expect, and true to form what they told us to expect happened. They said initially you will see a drop in your revenues because people are getting used to the new system. They've always been used to the fragmented one, but then the revenues would pick up, and I'm glad to say that revenues have started to pick up.
The E-Zone structures are located at the Tema Port, Kotoka International Airport and the Customs Technical Services Bureau. Addressing the ceremony earlier, Commissioner General of the GRA, George Blankson, said there are plans to expand the facility to other parts of the country.
This is the new area that we are now focusing with the establishment of the E-Zones. And it gladdens my heart that we are not limiting it to the key areas of KIA, which is Kotoka International Airport, and Tema. We are going on to Takoradi, Aflao, Elubo, and ultimately it will become part of every customs outpost, every customs unit, just like we have it at the domestic front.
The electronic payment zone was implemented in consultation with IT consulting and technology firm West Blue Consulting.
We now bring you some international business news. Thanks for staying. Welcome back to Business Live. Now, the domestic market for fruit juices has become more vibrant in recent times, and that's because Ghanaian consumers are increasingly appreciating their natural tastes and health benefits. However, despite this potential local market, about 70% of these products are imported. Today on the Joy Business Van, we will be telling you the story of entrepreneur Emmanuel Opariado, who has joined the few in the fresh fruit business, processing business. That's on the Joy Business Van.
The Joy Business Van is brought to you by Busy, making good things happen.
Juices are the most consumed beverage next to water, and here in Ghana, patronage is growing. Join our visit today to Wager to meet Emmanuel Opariado, the entrepreneur behind the locally produced real vine pineapple juice.
So we are making some fruit juice today. Fruit juice. Is it a tedious thing to do? It's very tedious, thinking about the fact that you have to deal with fresh fruits, cut them, make sure you have the best, take every spot thing out of it. After that, we feed straight to the machine with juice, bottle, and we are good to go. So let's get to work then. Sure.
For Emmanuel, this fresh fruit juice startup is living out a dream he had.
So why fruits? Well, fruits because I realized I really had to do something. I remember one day I was in a Trotsky, and there's this group they have. It's an association of graduates, unemployed graduates rather. And I said, well, if I'm going to look for a job, even if government has to consider anybody, they are going to consider them first because they have a voice. And I don't have a voice. So what can I do? I took to the internet and I realized, well, I could try my hands on juice.
Emmanuel, who pursued banking and finance in the university, didn't really have a unique skill in making fruit juice. He developed the skill over time, doing research and experimenting with his blender at home.
I even wanted to do smoothies. Wow. So I kept trying and trying and trying to realize, well, this one was going to sell because anybody I gave to, I said, try. They tried and it went well. Okay. It was good. Okay, so tell me about your first day doing this seriously. My first day doing this seriously, I spoke to a company. It was around Christmas, and they said they had gotten, they were going to have a party. So they just gave me the order out of the blue. I gave somebody some of the juice to taste. He liked it. And then we started. It's time to process now.
Producing fresh fruit juice meant Emmanuel had to ensure his products sell quickly, and that was a challenge at the beginning.
Sometimes you have to produce, and when you produce, you have no one to buy. This is fresh juice too, so you have to either give it out, or when it goes bad, you pour it out.
And this time, you do feel like just quitting?
I really felt like quitting, but I had put a lot into it. And I had to prove to everyone that sought to say that it might not work out for me. So I just kept going.
Emmanuel developed a strategy to target corporate institutions with his product. Sales began to pick up, and that he attributes to the quality of his product as well. Today, Emmanuel has his own space and he's able to produce thousands of bottled juice a day. Making juice, Emmanuel tells me, is now more than a business.
There's so much I've learned. I've learned how to manage, how to handle people. It has shaped my life, made me more responsible, because if you joke with your job, your only job that you have, then means you're not going to eat. So a lot of diligence, waking up in the morning, the disappointments have made me stronger. People turning you down, especially when you approach them to market your products to them. The way some people even look at you, the way some people talk to you, it's as if you want to beg them. But through everything, God has been good, God has been faithful, and we are still looking up to God to see where He takes us.
And it's delivery time.
There's a repeat of the Joy Business Fund tomorrow on the marketplace at 1 p.m. It's now time for Busy Bits.
Use a strong, unique password for every website. Yes, that means you'll have to install and use a password manager. Set your smartphone to lock after a short idle time and set it to require authentication for unlocking. If at all possible, use something stronger than a simple 4-digit PIN. Never click links in any emails or texts that seem to come from your bank, the IRS, or any other institution. If you think the message might be valid, log into your account directly without using the supplied link.